How many games do you think have been named?
The body dog!
If the name is right, it makes the game even more memorable.
This game is going to last in our mind for a long time.
To have a name for an event is pretty cool.
Weeks ago, we stood in this same spot.
Getting your 7 points here.
All 6 of you worked your tail off. 5 seconds left. All 4, you dreaming? 3.
Number 3, Brett, number 3.
83. More to go.
792, pushing 2 weeks.
1. Come on.
In any given year, there are 267 football games, but only the greatest earn names that live forever.
Ernest Biner, fumbled the ball, and Denver has recovered.
On this list, the name of the game is the name of the game.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
We give equal weight to both the name and the game. But what makes a good name?
Has to be catchy.
Ye old goes to the post.
Has to be memorable.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them?
And has to define the play or the player.
These games that get named have got to be controversial.
That's caught out of the air.
Sometimes it has to be weather-induced.
You can't even see the ball.
And above all else,
it had to be a big game and a good game.
It's got to be football at its finest.
But just because a game is great doesn't guarantee it a place on our list.
There's a gleam.
We're just getting rolling, so hang on.
The number 10 game with a name, the fumble.
I don't know any other way you can describe that loss other than those 2 words.
Ernest Biner, fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my.
It followed the drive.
Touchdown.
So there had to be a name.
It happened with the Denver Broncos again.
Tearing the heart out of Cleveland.
Which allowed them to go to the Super Bowl again.
But the guy who fumbled the ball, Ernest Biner, single-handedly made it possible for us to win.
1 year after the drive drove the dog pound to despair, Cleveland earned a chance at redemption.
This time, they think it's their turn.
In the 1987 AFC Championship.
And we basically start the game off. We're losing 21-3 at halftime.
Wide open touchdown. We'll get 3 and out. We'll win this game, I guarantee you.
But the Browns weren't finished, thanks to the efforts of Ernest Biner.
He's the heart of that Cleveland offense.
You could expect Ernest Biner to do some good things, and he did.
You know, without his play that day, he would not have even had the chance to win that game.
Just as he had been during the regular season, Biner emerged as Kozar's most reliable target, adding 120 yards receiving to a team-high 67 yards on the ground.
To Biner, Ernest Biner, touchdown.
It ain't over with yet.
Biner's second score of this third quarter.
You look at that team, they were just poised to finally do something.
38-31 Denver. Draw to Biner. Ernest Biner. Fumble the ball, and Denver has recovered. Oh, my.
That was heartbreaking.
I've never felt as bad for a player as I have for Ernest Biner.
Biner had the first and goal and lost the ball.
I think we saw that replay maybe 1,000 times, and that's all what Browns fans could think about.
But perhaps the name of our number 10 game was itself a dropped opportunity.
I just wish the defense was getting some love.
I think it should be called the strip.
Jeremiah Castile would probably love to have it called the strip.
Jeremiah Castile reaching in to strip that ball away, tearing the heart out of Cleveland's offense.
It's still, it's been 20-some years. I should get over it. I haven't. After that, there was a lot of animosity towards Ernest Biner. Some of the people within the organization, I don't think, let that go.
Following the 1988 season, Cleveland traded Biner to Washington for Mike Oliphant.
They got Mike Oliphant for him. Mike Oliphant? Are you kidding me? And, of course, what happens with Ernest Biner?
Let's pump it up, baby.
He wins a Super Bowl.
Ernest Biner in the end zone again.
Feels real good.
That erases a lot of those memories. But you know what? The fumble's still there. It's still in the back of his mind, and it always will be.
In the NFL, nothing breeds great nicknames like a nasty rivalry.
It's the free-for-all.
In the late 80s, Philadelphia's Buddy Ryan made precious few buddies.
The Banana Republic. That's what it is.
There was Bounty Bowl.
Oh, I would have said something to Buddy, but he wouldn't stand on the field long enough. He put his big fat rear end into the dressing room.
And Bounty Bowl, too.
I resent that. I've been on a diet. I lost a couple of pounds, and I thought I was looking good.
But the former Eagle coach bagged his best name on a Monday night in 1990.
The number 9 game with a name, the Body Bag Game.
9? 9? What's it doing at 9?
The name itself, that's number 1, the Body Bag Game.
Stanley got hurt. Briggs went out. Lusky went out. Humphreys is gone. It's a mess right now.
The name suggests dead bodies in a bag on the field. End of discussion. What's going to top that?
I mean, this has been just a disaster for the Redskins.
In wartime, the Body Bag Game is probably in poor taste.
A little morbid.
I think the fact that it's 9th, we're trying to be a little politically correct.
The Body Bag Game's got to be higher.
This is not up for debate. It's the greatest name of all time.
So how does a great name wind up one spot removed from dead last on our list?
I couldn't tell you when it was or what Monday night game or anything else. It's just the Body Bag Game.
For one, it was an otherwise unremarkable Eagles win over Washington in Week 10 of 1990.
The Redskins were in the wrong place at the wrong time. It just got ugly. It's an appropriate nickname for that game.
And it's just one by one, just knocking these guys out.
The Eagles are having them for lunch and dinner and maybe the snack on the plane flying home.
There was one point we wondered if they were going to pull guys out of the press box to play for the Redskins.
In obvious pain.
It was like a war zone that night. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
And Riggs is shaken up.
When Rutledge saw what was going on, he just said, hey, listen, I want out of this.
When you decimate a team where they're trying to find a quarterback and they put a kick returner running back in,
Ryan Mitchell is in the game.
You have succeeded.
The Redskins and the Eagles have played 895 times. But you say Body Bag Game.
Our number 9 game with a name managed to tie together a couple of Philly favorites.
You talk to a Philadelphia Eagle fan, the Body Bag Game rang true.
The Body Bag.
You guys have the championships. We have the clever little nicknames.
Philadelphia wants players to just rip the other team apart.
That is Philadelphia right there.
The Body Bag Game has come to represent more than a game. It was an era.
Buddy Ryan, salute, man.
That defense would hurt players. Were they dirty? Yeah, that's the way they played. That's the way Buddy Ryan wanted them to play.
Who you think's got this? Buddy Ryan football?
The House of Pain.
Played them twice a year. It was unbelievable. You knew a beating was about to come, and it really was.
How about this Eagles defense?
So really the mentality was go kill the quarterback. Put that quarterback in a body bag. We got this game in the bag.
So what took our number 9 game from a beating to body bags?
Apparently at one point during the game, one of the Eagles' defensive players turned to the Redskin bench and said, hey, do you guys need any more body bags?
Making reference to the need for body bags, just, wow.
8 weeks later, Philadelphia needed those body bags for their playoff hopes.
In Washington, it was the motivational tool for the playoffs.
And when it mattered, they crushed us.
Well, Eagles were beaten today. I don't think the press clippings had anything to do with it.
When that game was over, that was the last game that Buddy Ryan coached as an Eagles head coach.
So much for body bags.
The number 8 game with a name. The Ghost to the Post.
I think for this entire show, everybody's answer must be in the voice of John Facenda.
Hello there, I'm John Facenda.
I don't think that game could have been named anything other than Ghost to the Post.
Ghost to the Post.
Branch left, Biletnikoff to the right. Back again, straight drop back, pumps once. He goes medium deep to Casper. Casper makes it over the shoulder, catch!
The signature play of the 1977 double overtime playoff thriller helped the Raiders extend the game.
There it is, Fox, kick, in the air, and it is good. And now we face the prospect of that overtime.
When you hear Ghost to the Post, you think of Dave Casper.
Ghost to the Post is so good because it takes us back to a time when players had better nicknames. The Ghost, that's a cool nickname.
Great effort by the Ghost, Dave Casper.
Ghost. You can't get better than that. Then you got the Ghost to the Post. You can't get better than that.
Ghost to the Post, which defines him. He was as white as a piece of white chalk.
The Ghost is a great nickname. It just kind of implies that now he's here and now he's not.
He was able to disappear at the right time and come up with the big catch.
Even Baltimore fans can appreciate the name of the game.
Ghost to the Post is perhaps the greatest name of a route in a play ever conceived.
That could be the game breaker right there. Incredible how Casper could come open.
Great name. I think that's one of those plays that helped teach me football. You draw that up, it's like, what's the post? You say, okay, the guy's name is Casper. Makes a lot of sense to me.
That one confuses me a little bit. I know what it means with Dave Casper. I know you call him Ghost and Casper the Friendly Ghost. I think somebody could have worked on a better name than that.
I'm not sure this one should even be on the list because it's one play. It's not a whole game. It doesn't give you that sense that there's something memorable about the entire game.
This is true sudden death. This isn't overtime.
You don't think Raiders win in double overtime equals Ghost to the Post. You think Ghost to the Post is one play that contributed to a bigger event.
Casper the Ghost's game-winning touchdown in double overtime was just one of his 3 scores.
Quick throw into the end zone. Casper, touchdown Raiders!
Our number 8 game featured 68 total points and 9 lead changes.
And the Oakland Raiders have won this epic struggle.
Really one of the all-time great games.
Ghost to the Post just reminds you to me of the fact that Dave Casper, with the possible exception of Kellen Winslow's game in the 1981 playoffs,
Kellen Winslow with a Hall of Fame date,
had probably the greatest NFL playoff performance ever for a tight end.
Wants to throw, lets it go into the end zone. Touchdown, Casper!
Casper's the greatest tight end in professional football.
That game had been a Super Bowl. It'd be the greatest football game ever played.
Sometimes the NFL gets lucky, and they got lucky with that game.
What more could a fan ask for in a football game than what he has seen here this afternoon?
Great game. Great name, too.
Just on the name alone, Ghost to the Post boasts the most toasts.
For starters, a rhyme puts you ahead of the game.
Goes to the Post. It's appropriate.
Rhyme gets you up 2 spots. The cool nickname pumps you up another 2 spots.
The old Ghost to the Post.
Ghost to the Post is tough to beat.
It should be number 1.
The more I talk about it, I'm kind of bumping it up to 5, 4, 3 region.
I don't know why it's not number 1.
If your name is John Madden, first you're probably going to have some games with names. I bet after they played each week, John would go back in the locker room and say, all right, what are we going to call that game?
Whatever Madden might have called his games, there are far too many to make our list. In 1978, the Raiders won with the Holy Roller.
This one will be relived forever.
I think the Holy Roller is a great name for it. I believe in the big guy. He was there.
Madden didn't corner the market on Raider named games, but what the 2001 AFC playoff is called is up for debate.
You call it the tuck rule and not the snow job. Those are fighting words in the black hole.
The tuck rule, come on. What a joke.
It was no laughing matter when NBC abandoned a 14-point Raider comeback against the Jets in favor of a kids' movie named Heidi.
And the Oakland Coliseum became an enormous secret love-in called the Heidi Bowl.
But it was a game with an epic finish that made our list.
The number 7 game with a name, the Sea of Hands.
The Sea of Hands?
7th.
Are you kidding me?
7th. Who's ranking these?
Sorry, I won't dignify that with a further response.
The Sea of Hands, a great movie with Al Pacino and Ellen Barkin.
No! What?
Sorry, that was Sea of Love.
The Sea of Hands was actually a game-winning touchdown pass in the 1974 AFC playoffs.
Miami is in front 25-21.
There he is, looking. He's under the gun. He's tied, he throws.
An era of Miami Dolphin dominance came to an end on that day.
An impossible pass, an impossible catch. You could look at that film over and over, and you still walk away thinking, how the hell did he do it?
The game came down to a ball falling into a sea of hands.
Billed as Super Bowl 8.5, the game featured 2 very different types of teams.
Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker.
White cowboy hat and a black cowboy hat, the good guy and the bad guy.
No fights? Oh, man, we got to have some fights.
After the game, the sea of hands turned into a sea of fans.
A Raider fan came on the field and he punched me in the stomach, and Manny Fernandez pummeled him to the ground.
You had all the crazies out there, all of those Looney Tunes that show up for Raider games.
I like that image. I think a lot of our players like the image.
Like all playoff games in Oakland, I mean, there was a buzz going on.
And you could see it building during the week. And I remember the press telling everybody wear black underwear, girls bring in your black bras, your black panties, guys bring in black towels. I remember going out when we got introduced, and I saw the bras, I saw the underwear. The place was black. It was totally black. That was a huge football game. That's a game that should be named.
Not everyone is satisfied with the name of our number 7 game.
I don't especially like it. We ought to give it another name. Stabler's knuckleball pass for a touchdown.
It looked like he might have been lobbing it into the promised land for Miami.
He got lucky. It is a flutter ball, and I'm thinking, yes.
But no, Davis got there first.
Ironically, the key figure in the sea of hands was Clarence Davis, a running back with hands of stone.
Clarence couldn't catch a cold at the North Pole naked.
Worst hands on the team.
Back to pass goes Stabler. He looks, he throws, incomplete. Clarence Davis couldn't hang on to the pass.
I thought it should have been the raging sea of hands. It's almost as if you're watching a Baptist revival. Everybody's throwing up their hands.
Clarence Davis emerged from the sea, walking on water in a messianic kind of way.
I guess Alameda is still the house of miracles. It was maybe the greatest football game I have ever seen.
A guy who has no hands for the Raiders come up with the big catch for the win. The Sea of Hands, what an appropriate name that is.
The number 6 game with a name. The greatest game ever played.
Yankee Stadium jam-packed for the greatest playoff game in pro football history. New York Giants versus the Baltimore Colts for the National Pro title.
What better name for a game than the greatest game ever played?
What's the point of playing another one when we've already seen the greatest?
I think it should be the greatest impact game ever played. You watch the game.
These defenses are really tough.
You go, what was so special about this game?
Yeah, it's the greatest game ever played.
Maybe the most important game ever played?
That's the end of the game. The final score, Baltimore 23, the New York Giants 17.
But the greatest? No.
Our number 6 game with a name, the 1958 NFL Championship, certainly didn't start as the greatest game ever played.
Neither team had great traction. There were a lot of turnovers.
The first 3 series of the game ended in turnovers, and there were 6 turnovers in all.
Gifford away from one man is a fumble, and the Baltimore Colts have recovered.
With Baltimore trailing 17-14 in the final minutes, the game took a historic turn when Johnny Unitas led a frantic game-tying drive.
Unitas throw, it's good to Berry.
The way Unitas executed the offense, I mean, that was revolutionary stuff.
With 15 seconds to go, and the kick by Myra is good, and the game is tied.
You talked about Donovan McNabb this year not knowing that a game could end in a tie.
Never even knew that was in the rule book.
These guys didn't even know what overtime was.
We're going to see the first application in history of the sudden death rule.
2 great teams, the New York market, dramatic finish.
United States begins to Amici, and the ball game is over.
It was with that game that football really took its place.
It got stuck with that name because Sports Illustrated came out a week later and called it the greatest game of all time. The guy who was writing that article was a guy named Keck Small. He was a publicist for a couple of NFL teams. He was an NFL guy.
The name stuck, and with good reason.
17 players from that game ended up in the Hall of Fame.
United goes down to the end zone, and it's a touchdown.
It took millions of people that didn't really appreciate pro football and drew them into the sport.
The Baltimore Colts are the champions of the world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could say it's the greatest game ever played.
But our number 6 game with a name has its share of detractors.
I've looked at the attendance figures, and what you'll see is there was no dramatic jump up after the 58 sudden death game.
There have been a whole lot of greatest games ever played since the greatest game ever played.
Dives for the end zone!
You sit the casual football fan down and have them watch the 1958 NFL Championship game and this year's Super Bowl.
Touchdown!
It's going to be no contest.
what it became and what it represents is more important than how many times the ball got turned over or how many penalties were called.
The most influential game ever played. The most important game ever played. The greatest game ever played, catchier, not quite accurate.
And now, the number 5 game with a name, the Fog Bowl.
It gets foggy in Chicago. I mean, what's the big deal, folks?
It was a unique moment in football history. You'll never forget it, and it could only be called the Fog Bowl.
The only thing that could make it more classic would be to call it the Fog Bowl.
You can't even see the ball.
When people realized that this was a special game and it was funny, the name Fog Bowl was an obvious one.
The 1988 playoff game between the Bears and Eagles began as a beautiful day.
Weather forecast, mostly sunny today, high of 35.
2 days ago, we were talking about weather in the single digits. Now it's shirt sleeve weather. It's New Year's Eve. Is it wonderful or what?
That wonderful day wouldn't last.
First quarter was sunny, and then there was hardly any wind.
Right at the end of the half, that fog came up over the lake side of the stadium. It looked like it came out of a movie.
This dropped right down into the field.
It's not snow, it's not rain, it's fog. You need a stadium by a Great Lake, you need some sort of temperature inversion.
Fog is where you get a different temperature of air mixing with another temperature of air, generally warm colliding with cold. When they mix together, you saturate the atmosphere and you get clouds. In this game, visibility was literally zero.
And the minute you came to the sideline, you stepped through this wall to the coaches. And you kind of snuck your head out, and they said, well, what's going on? Did the last play work?
People say, how bad was it? It was hard to pick up people past 10 yards.
Here's how it looks to us, and we're only about 20 yards away from the play. We can hardly see it.
We can't see anything beyond 10 feet from here.
No, that's it. They can see our monitors, and that's the best we can do. I'm sorry.
In back of me, the Eagles and the Bears are playing football. There are just shadows back there. I have never seen anything like this before.
We were watching on TV. We go, where's everybody at? We just basically watched a big cloud.
As the fog thickened, the NFL considered stopping our number 5 game.
I think it's bad enough now to suspend it.
We in Philadelphia were screaming at the top of our lungs, stop the game. There's an incredible sense that the game was played under conditions that truly didn't determine the best team.
The game has continued. It is being monitored by the National Football League. Now, this is bizarre.
The reaction after the fact is it should have been called because the Eagles lost that game.
How many games are you going to see in fog? How could that be 5? I would move the Fog Bowl up.
I think the Fog Bowl is probably where it should be. Any higher, Philadelphia Eagle fans would be jumping off a bridge.
That may have been the best of those Eagle teams, and they lost because a cloud descended. Damn, you're making me mad again thinking about it.
Coach Ditka looked up at the clouds and said, help. And the fog came in.
Welcome to Chicago, where the weather can change at any minute. I always tell people we scored when the sun was shining. That's what they should have did.
The number 4 game with a name, The Drive.
You think of clutch performances, you think of The Drive.
For John Elway, you could put his career around the word The Drive.
The look, the throw, touchdown! Elway completes the drive of the game.
It's simple, but it says it.
Anybody who thought that Mr. Elway was overrated had better think again.
How else can you describe it except the drive?
To fully appreciate the drive, you must first appreciate the circumstance.
There's a gleam, men. There's a gleam.
With just under 6 minutes remaining in the 1986 AFC Championship,
Take him all the way, Barney.
Cleveland seized a 20-13 lead.
He goes in the end zone for the touchdown. Place is going absolutely crazy.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Super Bowl.
And then on top of that, the Broncos have trouble with the kickoff. It's down at the 2-yard line.
You may have just seen the straw that broke the Broncos' back.
He's got to go 98 yards.
The ball really wasn't even at the 2-yard line. It was more like at the 1.5.
And people behind me are talking about how they're going to call their travel agent, and everybody's thinking Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Super Bowl. Well, the fat lady hasn't sung yet, but you can believe she's in the wings warming up the pipes.
And then John Elway did the unthinkable.
Our number 4 game with a name was a testament to John Elway's inner drive.
Elway threaded the needle for 22 yards.
It was amazing watching him.
3rd and 18.
If they needed 9 yards, they got 10.
It's a Denver first down and a gain of 20.
And sense of dread began to kind of settle over the place.
It was a feeling of helplessness.
And then zip.
The look, the throw.
Boom, Jackson.
Touchdown.
And you could hear a pin drop at the stadium.
Folklore through the years has led us to believe that was the game-winning drive.
Elway leads the Broncos to tie.
To be perfectly honest, I kind of forgot it wasn't the game-winning drive, too.
It forced overtime, which, again, Elway drove him down.
Well, Elway's done his job.
The field goal.
Carlos's kick is on the way.
That was missed, the missed field goal.
And it is gone.
That didn't make it. That shouldn't have won the game.
The Denver Broncos win it in overtime. Yeah!
I just remember, next thing you know, you start hearing it from the sports writers, the drive.
I think it started to stick almost immediately after the game.
The drive of the game.
There's nothing else to call it. It was the embodiment of a drive. Conditions were horrible. They had to do it, and they did it.
If you want to give the name The Drive to any drive, is that the one?
Santonio with a touchdown! There have been other impressive winning drives in the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
Oh, how about Eli Manning engineering an 83-yard drive?
But our number 4 game with a name had more to do with Elway than Denver's win.
I think if you asked, what do you consider Elway's signature moment, most people would say that drive in Cleveland.
Football is a religion to some fans, and the rest could have become converts from these games that bowed out of our list.
What you believe in?
In 1975, Roger Staubach's Hail Mary answered the Cowboys' prayers.
Pearson goes in for the touchdown!
In 1978, the Eagles performed a miracle at the Meadowlands.
Mazarchik fumbles the football and picked up by Herman Edwards. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
It's hard to believe the outcome of the Music City miracle.
It's a miracle! Tennessee has pulled a miracle!
To win the Midnight Miracle, the Jets needed help from the big guy.
Big man almost dropped it. Thought it was a hamburger.
But it was another grab that delivered salvation to San Francisco and made our list.
The number 3 game with a name, the catch.
When we hear the catch, we know exactly what it refers to.
And on 3rd down and 3, Montana rolls right, looking to throw, and he throws into the end zone.
The snapshot that always comes to mind is Joe Montana to Dwight Clark. I mean, that's the image that you take away from that.
I think we can all, as we're watching this, close our eyes and picture that play.
The 1981 NFC Championship was named for Clark's catch, but there is more to the play that gave our number 3 game its name.
Just as impressive as Dwight Clark's catch was obviously the leap. I don't even know if it should be called the catch. It should have been called the leap. You know the movie, they say white man can't jump? Well, Dwight Clark could jump that day.
I just wonder how difficult that catch really would have been for another receiver who was a little more athletic than Dwight.
Technically speaking, the actual name of the catch is sprint right option.
We're going to call a sprint option. Dwight will clear. Okay. As soon as you see the angle he's breaking, then just drop the ball up there.
Dwight is in here sliding back out.
He makes the adjustment, runs right back over where Montana is.
It's called sprint right option. I'm supposed to slide along the back end of the end zone, and it came wide open. Joe made a great throw.
Turns out the catch is an extension of the Q8 option. The quarterback has the option to run and throw. Bill Walsh loved that play, got it from Paul Brown.
That's Coach Paul Brown at the head of the class.
We've had a lot of years of experience in developing a pass offense.
And this is a play that was developed by the Cleveland Browns, and people see it coming and still don't stop it.
The 49ers, in one of the best drives in NFL history, scored with under a minute to go, and they beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-27, and now it's on to the Super Bowl for the Niners.
Turning points in NFL history can often be traced to a game with a name. The catch led to the first of 5 49ers Super Bowls.
The 49ers now exalting.
When the 49ers beat the Dallas Cowboys, it's a team that had been a loser for many, many years.
Just a god-awful 49er team, a team that was a joke.
It was a real kind of formal changing of the guard, so to speak.
The Cowboys were America's team, at the height of America's team, and so to beat them was a huge deal. It was like a young knight slaying the dragon.
In the entirety of NFL history, there have been a lot of great catches.
Holy cow, what a catch! A spectacular catch!
You will never see a better catch than that one.
So does the catch really deserve the title?
There will never, ever be any catch that will top the catch.
The catch? I don't know. In the past 2 Super Bowls, you've had David Tyree with the helmet.
What a catch by Tyree. Tyree had Harrison all over him. The ball was on his helmet.
And you've had Santonio Holmes with the tippy toes.
Santonio Holmes! I don't know how he did it! What a catch! What a game!
Those are both much bigger spots, far more amazing, and probably deserve the title more.
Super Bowl 43 had the catch, but you only think of one catch. You think of the cover of Sports Illustrated, Dwight Clark fully extended. It's one of those moments where we all remember where we were when we saw Dwight Clark catch that football.
Here's a touchdown for the 49ers!
I would argue that the catch is the most significant play in NFL history.
That was the moment that turned the 49ers into this dynasty for the ages.
The team of the decade.
That deserves every nickname that it gets.
It was the catch. Very simple, but that's what it was.
Bad weather and football fit together like hand in glove.
This is the kind of weather I like. It's going to be nasty and dirty today, baby.
Rainy, nasty. We love it, though.
We didn't have much love for the 1977 Mud Bowl, where the Vikings found their footing and victory.
Here's mud in your eye.
Traction can be a wonderful thing. Just ask the Patriots, who won the 1982 snowplow game.
Enter the Foxborough Brushmen, who cleared the path to victory.
The score was 0-0. They got down in position to kick a field goal. I should have thrown myself in front of the snowplow.
There it is. Good snap. The kick is up. He has converted it. It's good.
It's the most unfair act in the history of the National Football League.
One of the coldest games in NFL history was the 1981 AFC Championship, known as the Freezer Bowl.
The temperature has dropped to 9 below. You've got to be crazy, nuts, to be out there today.
You may think we're nuts for not including the Freezer Bowl on our list, but when it comes to Arctic games with names, there is only one choice.
The number 2 game with a name, the Ice Bowl.
Whenever you're talking about the 1960s, Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, John Facenda, it's going to be magical.
On the coldest New Year's Eve in the cold, cold history of Green Bay, the Packers met the Dallas Cowboys in the Eastern Conference for the championship of the National Football League.
Snot froze like icicles dripping off the eaves of the Green Bay homes that lined Lambeau Field. I am cold just talking about the Ice Bowl.
The deepest circle of Dante's Inferno doesn't burn, it's frozen. I remember the morning of that game getting a wake-up call, and the lady said, "Good morning, Mr. Sable. The sun is out. It's 16 degrees below zero. Have a nice day."
You think about the Ice Bowl, you're just glad that you were never there.
The conditions in our number 2 game were inhuman.
My feet were numb, and then the next day after the game, my toes did blister up a bit. I had 6 toes that had frostbite.
Weather conditions are worsening by the minute.
I can remember the burning sensation that I had in my throat from breathing that cold air.
The Dallas Cowboys appear to be in big trouble.
We had one of the, if not the fastest teams to ever play the game. Bobby Hayes was nullified by the weather conditions. He didn't adjust well that day.
Bullet Bob Hayes, he's got his hands down his pants because he's so cold he doesn't even want to run his routes.
In Green Bay, it is called Packer weather.
We were anticipating a ball game and a good football game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be hard.
I like that. Football's got to be torturous. It's got to be labor and pain. And let's see who the best man is.
The other thing that's most amazing about that Ice Bowl is that, 50, 60,000 people sat there and watched it in Lambeau Field.
A sellout crowd has braved the coldest game in league championship history.
A lot of hot chocolate. I think the hot chocolate was probably frozen. So it had to be something a little stronger than hot chocolate. But the fact that they braved the elements, man, those people up there in Wisconsin, man, pretty strong.
There are a lot of really cold games, but there's a reason the Ice Bowl has a place on our list.
When you talk about games with names, that's probably the first one that comes to mind for everybody.
It had to be the Ice Bowl. Now, there were colder games. 1981 AFC Championship game, minus 59 below zero. That was colder, but you know what? It wasn't Lambeau Field. It was Riverfront Stadium. It wasn't the Green Bay Packers. It was the Cincinnati Bengals. Whole different scenario.
I think the Ice Bowl is remembered because of how it played into the mystique of the Green Bay Packers. Their season is on the line. Their championship is on the line. And in a very real sense, their legacy is on the line.
They were going for a third consecutive title, which had only been done one other time. So Vince Lombardi had been playing this game as an important historical event.
That final drive that Green Bay puts together, in the scope of football history, becomes the definition of the Lombardi Packers. And when they got down there and had the choice, do we kick a field goal and tie and go to overtime? Or do we lay it on the line here and try and win it with one play? And they chose to go for the one play.
It all comes down to this. A third straight NFL title riding on this play.
Instead of being the Ice Bowl, it could be the call, because that was a gutsy call.
Starr begins the count. Takes the snap.
What an amazing game. I mean, you talk about the greatest game ever played. That was the greatest game ever played.
We've never taken it down to the wire like this for an NFL championship.
For it to come down to the finish the way it did and to be played under such brutal conditions was, pretty amazing.
And now, the number one game with a name, the Immaculate Reception.
That's probably the most perfect sports nickname.
It's just the coolest name ever. Immaculate Reception. Catchy, memorable, and you've got the reception part.
It's caught out of the air. Yeah, the Immaculate Reception.
It's a perfect nickname.
Before the name came to play in a 1972 AFC divisional playoff game.
After 40 years of waiting, the ugly duckling Pittsburgh Steelers realized a beautiful dream.
It's down to one big play, 4th down and 10 yards to go.
While the brilliance of the name for our number one game is unquestioned, the play itself encounters greater scrutiny.
It wasn't even a good play. It was a freak show play. It was a pinball play. But the romance that surrounds it is unbelievable.
Fires it downfield. And there's a collision. That's caught out of the air. The ball is pulled in by Franco Harris.
I still don't think he caught the ball. I think the ball bounced. They caught the Immaculate Reception because, my God.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Immaculate Deception. That's what it is.
The all-time worst call. Mr. Rooney was in an elevator. He didn't even see the play. He was going down in the locker room. He told me later to congratulate this guy for having a great season. He thought they lost, which they should have.
The Immaculate Reception is such a great name because it was an immaculate reception.
Looking for somebody to throw to. Fires it downfield.
There are so many things that had to happen.
And there's a collision.
And did.
That's caught out of the air. The ball is pulled in.
And it was appropriately named the Immaculate Reception.
Who came up with the name? Does anybody know?
Nobody knows.
Myron Cope had a talk show in town.
Play that saxophone, Bobby!
A caller called in and said, "Hey, Cope, I got a name for that play, the Immaculate Reception."
How?
Cope always gave him credit, but without Cope, it would not have been promoted.
From out of nowhere came Franco Harris, and I believe he was riding a white stallion down the field, heading up Franco's Italian army.
That's just a magnificent combination of religion and sports.
When it originally came out, there was plenty of criticism from people who thought it was blasphemy.
Absolutely unbelievable.
What that Immaculate Reception did was it turned the luck of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise.
That was the moment that people looked to as when the Steelers dynasty was born.
And it is the greatest nickname of all time because you look at where the Steelers were before that play. The mighty Oakland Raiders, just the play itself.
Where did he come from?
It was immaculate.
It is, to me, the greatest named single play in NFL history.
Holy moly!
Perfect nickname for a perfect miracle play.
The Immaculate Reception may exemplify the perfect name for a game, but every nickname on our list shares one thing in common.
As soon as you hear those nicknames, it takes you back there to that time and place.
Elway completes the drive of the game.
It's what it does to make that memory immortal.
This is insane.
You and your family have that one moment, and that day lives forever.
It just goes on and on, has a life of its own.
And the Baltimore Colts are the professional football champions of the world.
Once you get the nickname should last forever.